My dream growing up was really to represent my country in the Olympics, and I got very close to that. His hands up and he said, "What did your mum say when you were born a nun?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's what people think sometimes." That's what I thought of nuns. I was like, "Oh, these are the people that grow up wanting to be nuns, become nuns." You know, leaving for the US and walking away from your own family and career and profession. It's like, oh my gosh, what a test of faith of like, is this really for you? And then I left Sydney for the Bronx and survived my Bronx experience. We don't, as I said, we don't have incomes. So we don't get paid for the work we do. So we actually, our whole lives depend on the generosity of people. Absolutely. I know you can't see too much right now, but there is more to it, I promise. But basically,
I hope so.
Yeah.
A pair of comfy pants or lounge around and watch
be
TV.
comfortable. This is all and everything I own.
Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yeah, you too, Laura. It's a gift to be here.
I'm very excited to ask you a bunch of different questions. So
Me too.
thank you so much for being willing to do it.
You're so welcome. It's such a gift to share the life. So yeah.
Well, why don't we start with your name and let's go back to your childhood, how you grew up.
Sure. So my name is Sister Mary Grace. I was not born a nun. I grew up on the shores of Sydney, Australia. So, and I'm a Sister of Life now. So I currently live in Denver, but most of our community's in New York. And I really didn't even know nuns existed, honestly, growing up, Laura. It was like, I thought it was for old women who didn't want to get married and they were unhappy. And I thought I would never want it anyway. It was just like, so I didn't even say no to it. It was honestly not even on my horizon and definitely not in my dream list. But it wasn't until I turned about 18 that I met the sisters. These sisters came out to Sydney for a trip.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, it was the first time I really encountered Jesus. And I saw in these women, they were alive. They were normal, surprisingly. They were relatable and they were completely happy in a way that I had never seen before. And I didn't know God like that. So that was kind of the first time it struck me as a young woman. And I thought, who is this God? And I want to know him like they know him.
That's awesome. So did you grow up in the Catholic Church then? I
did. Yep. Had a faithful Catholic family, went to church on Sundays, went to a Catholic school. But I would say my experience of the faith growing up was kind of like an external experience. You know, I kind of just grew up thinking like, if I do the right things, if I stay a good girl, God will be pleased, God will be happy, life will go well for me. You know, suffering won't come. I'll kind of, you know, avoid all the tough stuff if I just keep God happy. But for me, my real conversion was experiencing the God who I thought was distant and on the outside actually impact me on the inside, and experiencing his love and his life and him actually being alive in me. When I prayed, I was like, oh my gosh, who is this? And why did I not know about him before? So it really went personal when I started to actually, let God touch my heart and speak to him from the inside and not just on the outside.
Were your goals very traditional, such as going off to college, getting married, having children?
I definitely wanted to live forever by the beach. If that's traditional for an Australian, I guess so. I never dreamed of leaving Australia. I love Australia. I love it more than even when I left it. But the thought of leaving and living far from my family and friends and not having a husband of my own, not having my own children, really didn't even cross my mind. The only additional thing to that I don't know if everybody dreams this is that I definitely wanted a gold medal around my neck at some point. So my dream growing up was really to represent my country in the Olympics, and I got very close to that. And then God, showed me another path and showed me that there was a greater happiness that not even the world could give me that he was offering. And that really changed my dreams at that point. And things became a little less conventional at that point.
Yeah. So what was the vetting process like? How do you become I'll get back to this too, but nun versus sister, but how did you start this process and how long did it take?
Yeah, good question. You don't grow up in Catholic school being taught how people become nuns. Literally, like we went to a little grade school recently, and this little boy, would have been like 5-6-year-old, puts his hands up. They ask the best questions, the little ones. Puts his hands up and he said, "What did your mum say when you were born a nun?" I was like, oh my gosh, like that's what people think sometimes. That's what I thought of nuns. I was like, oh, these are the people that grow up wanting to be nuns, become nuns, which is just not true. The truth is that Jesus Christ calls particular people to love and to live with him in a particular way that is unusual, that is not the normal way of getting married and staying in the world and having a job. And so it's very unusual, but Laura, to be honest, it's a supernatural call. And if I tried to be a sister on my own, I simply wouldn't be here. Because I'm not enough for this vocation. And it's not like it's a selection of the fine few. It's really a selection that God makes of those who are weak enough to really follow him radically and let his life and grace really rule our lives. And really, religious life is just a radical way of following Jesus.
Okay.
But it is a call, and it's a free response of a heart to follow him in this way. And I had none of this educational knowledge when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But my experience of it was that, when I was about 16, my dreams were, to represent my country, to never leave my country. I wanted to do something great with my life.
Yeah.
And my understanding of greatness was like definitely gold medal because I was obsessed with sports. I was like, that would be the heights. That would be like the max goal.
Yeah.
And what I discovered is as I encountered the person of Jesus and actually began a prayer life with him, actually started talking to him about my heart, what I discovered was that he began to reveal to me that my desire for greatness wasn't just for Olympic gold.
Yeah.
It was actually to lay my life down for all peoples, and my desire for intimacy and my desire to have my own family was actually an overspill of my desire to give my heart totally to him and to be satisfied by his love. And now this took time. This took like 5 years of praying and bringing my fears and my hopes and dreams. But Jesus revealed to me that he had put this vocation on my heart. And this is how he created me to live. And it's the same for each one of us, that actually following Jesus, he doesn't kind of like force you down an alleyway to live a certain holy life. He actually reveals to you that he's created you for something that will call you to life, and actually his will for your life is the happiest route we can take. And that took a long time to discover, but it's true.
Yeah. So after the 5 years then, what
Yes.
kind of celebration or ceremony is held for you to be officially a sister?
Yeah, that's a great question. So after about 5 years of wrestling on my own, I learned that discernment is the big D word that we use for like, asking Jesus what he wants us to do with the love that he's given us.
Yeah.
I finally reached out to the sisters. I was trying to figure out so much on my own and I was just not getting anywhere. So finally I reached out to my community, the Sisters of Life, and filled out, this form online. And then I actually, for the first time, I was so grateful to have guidance, to have someone else with me, a spiritual guide, a mentor. I had a priest that I met monthly and was telling him about all the things that were coming up in my heart, all my fears, all my dreams. And then I started to be in relationship with the community. So actually just asking them like, what is a Sister of Life? And why do you all do this? And how do you live? And what's your relationship to families? And asking questions like, if I don't have a vocation, are you just wanting me to get in the door? Like how does this work? So it just beginning that communication with the community and a great spiritual mentor was key for me, because then I could actually listen to God's voice and they could help me hear his voice, and the voice of God always dismisses our fears and brings peace and love and light, and we need help hearing that. So after 5 years of walking with them, then there was a discernment between the community and I received the grace to ask if I could take another step forward, and they were discerning too, is this God's will? And then I left Sydney for the Bronx and survived my Bronx experience. But most Sisters of Life, when you enter religious life, our community was formed and born in New York City, predominantly to serve women in the city. So if as Sisters of Life, we enter in the Bronx, and then we have like a period of 2 to 3 years of formation where you just learn to live the life in New York, and you take on the habit, the veil, eventually in time. And then eventually it leads to, after about 8 to 10 years, then a final commitment, what we call perpetual vows. That's like a lifelong commitment. Doesn't happen until about 8 to 10 years after entering, because it is a whole nother life to enter into. And the church is so reverent and respectful that, you might enter in thinking, this is for life, and that's how I did. But the church is wise and gentle and prudent of like, well, let's just test the graces and allow God to guide this young woman and reverence her freedom, that she doesn't have to have all the answers right away, that God will show us if this is of him.
Yeah.
And he confirmed that for me. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship like with your family?
stronger and deeper than anything
Yeah.
else. But yeah, I had such a gifted family life growing up. It wasn't perfect, like no
Mhm.
family is.
Yeah.
But I am really blessed with a mum and a dad and a sister and two brothers. And we were super close. So honestly, Laura, like discerning religious life, one of the number one things for me was, well, what does this mean for my family?
Yeah.
I'll never forget my mum saying to me, she was like, couldn't you look at an order just a little bit closer than New York City? Like it literally from Sydney is the furthest flight. Like you cannot get a further flight from Sydney than to New York JFK. And a vocation is a mystery. It doesn't totally make sense on paper. And
Yeah.
I know that my parents, especially my dad, keeps saying to me, he said, all we want is for you to be happy. But leaving for the US and walking away from your own family and career and profession, it's like, oh my gosh, what a test of faith of like, is this really for you?
Yeah.
Um, and I would have to say it's only been like, yeah, we've grown together as a family in this. And um, one of the highlights of my life was really the day that I professed final vows. So it's kind of like wedding day in the convent where you
Yeah.
profess forever, which I did 2 years ago.
Okay.
And my mum dressed. We was at St. Patrick's Cathedral, but I'll never forget seeing my mum walk in the cathedral. She dressed like mother of the bride, and my
Oh,
dad was in this full tux, and my family,
yeah.
and it was so beautiful. And it was
Yeah.
like they needed it. They needed time, but they saw how happy I was, and it was the first time I looked back at them and thought, "Oh my gosh, they are happy too."
Yeah.
And the loss is real. It's a real separation. I can't just call my family whenever I want. I can't just jump on the next flight because I miss them. But as sisters of life, our whole way of life is about living family life, even as sisters. So we live a local family life, and it's so important for us to journey with our families because as we don't relate in the same way, I would say my family relationships have only ever deepened.
Yeah.
And even like tensions and awkward things that like in the past really bothered and stuck around, when you only get to go home once a year, suddenly people don't care about the little things as much.
Yeah.
It's just like, listen, we have 10 days together.
Yeah.
How can we make the most of it? My brothers start telling me beautiful things I've never heard them say before. My dad writes letters I've never seen him write.
Yeah.
So there's been these displays of love when you realize one another is such a gift. And
Hmm.
sometimes we don't realize that until, there is a certain separation or a distance or a loss that you're like, oh my gosh, what a gift it is. It's not
Hmm.
perfect. I'm not
Yeah.
the perfect sister. I'm not the perfect daughter. But my gosh, this vocation has allowed me to see my family in all the mess and mystery is such a gift. And let's make most of the time we have together.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
What about any friends or anyone you had from your previous life? Do you have
Yeah,
contact with any of them?
I do. Yeah. 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 It's a gift to, yeah. And see my friends embrace. Yeah, what it's like to have a friend as a nun. Like it's very different and it's not that conventional. And we can't just go out for coffee every now and then, which is exactly what I do with friends. But I've learned in religious life how much God chooses and really, yeah, blesses you with the gift of friends before religious life,
Yeah.
really for the sake of your religious life. And I cannot tell you the amount of letters and rare conversations I've had with my friends that have taught me so much through their married lives and the sacrifices they're making
Yeah.
that have really been a source of encouragement to me. And yeah, watching my friends embrace, the vocations and the sufferings and the crosses they have, even
Yeah.
just saying, gosh, how much we need each other.
Yeah.
Sisters need friends, friends
Yeah.
need sisters. Like
Yeah.
it's not like a goodbye world. I have nothing to do with you. Actually, religious life is I am re entering the world in a whole new way. And
Mm.
yes, it might not mean that I get to text my friends or I can see them as much as I want, but God has asked me to lay my life down for others, which means actually relating to people on a whole new level and way that wasn't even possible before. That I
Mm.
can literally pray and intercede and care and be free of mind and heart to accompany my friends and my family more than I would have if I had a job and a family of my own. It
Yeah.
really religious like kind of like sets the heart free to be totally available to whoever God brings into your life, including those that you had in your life before, which has
Interesting.
been, yeah, something wonderful to experience. And the gift of friendship in religious life was one of my biggest surprises. I thought surely no other normal young woman would be doing this. I have a rare grace, it's exceptional. But I was happily surprised on the day I entered that 11 other women also entered. One was a lawyer, one was a doctor, and everybody was normal, and I was not the only one with this grace. So that was a nice surprise.
That's just a nice surprise.
Yeah.
So actually that brings me to another question then. If there's people that are entering that have certain qualifications, will that person that's a doctor or a lawyer, will you use those skills within the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. A little tricky to answer just because, I mean, each religious community is so unique in the way that they serve the church in the world. And yeah, so there's like Dominicans where their predominant way of serving the church is teaching. So a lot of them become teachers, whether they've been teachers or not before. They either get trained up, or their skills and their gifts before are great handy. For our community, the predominant service to the church in the world is a service to the human person. So as sisters of life, we enter for you, for every human person, that you may know your goodness and your worth. And that no matter what your age, whether you're injured, healthy, whether you have a clean record or one of the worst records in the world, that you are loved, actually, and there's inherent dignity in you that cannot be lost, is not taken away. So as sisters, we mainly serve by walking along women who have experienced traumatic situations, and those who are unexpectedly pregnant. We host retreats for young adults, for women of all ages, for men. We do a lot of evangelization, so things like this, where we proclaim and have opportunities to just share the amazing and the kind of like startling good news of Jesus Christ, that he loves you and that he has a good plan for you. So as sisters, we literally, it's like across the board skill set, and as sisters, there's not a qualification to become a sister of life. It's really, for us, it's constantly asking Jesus, what are you inviting this young woman to? And is this for her? Are you inviting her to this? And we have we have teachers, we have midwives, we have wannabe athletes, we have lawyers, doctors, we have single theology students. I mean, literally the entire gamut. We have engineers, we have pilots, we have ex-Navy servicewomen. It's really come one and come on. Everybody's journey, to at least my experience in religious life, is so unique. You ask any sister and you're like, I'm sorry, how do those stories connect? This is really the Lord's doing. And some women, he will make use of particular professional gifts, some for a time, some for a long time. And then, I worked in campus ministry a little bit before. So working alongside and serving and accompanying young women and men on college campuses is like, that just like naturally lights my heart up. And I love being there and doing that. But, next year the Lord might, mission me to a different mission that is, serving crisis women again. So it really could be anything. Sometimes, but in every missioning, like with every place that a sister's sent to, it's really, it's for her growth and her joy first, even before it is, the work. It's really that she becomes who she is, most fully alive, most fully happy, and then for the glory of God, and then of the service of the other person. So it's amazing how God uses our gifts.
No, that's
and brings new ones about.
Are women allowed to enter into the sisterhood if they have children or been previously married?
That's a great question. Again, I'm not sure about all religious communities. I know that different communities encourage different things, or I know with our community, typically we've seen that God typically calls and invites a woman, usually around her younger years, when she's like, the older age of high school, or like young in college or working, just kind of around the time when a young woman is beginning to ask the questions of like, wow, how am I going to spend my life? What am I going to do? Do I want to, who am I going to marry? It's usually around that time that the Lord kind of places upon her heart these questions too. So typically women that enter our community are usually around college age or have worked for a few years. Now, there's no black and white. We're not going to script God's call. But what we've seen, at least, is that typically women that are interested and called to our community have been single, or just asking that question of God, what do you want to do with my love at a younger age? But each to their own. So I would encourage anyone who feels a call or is drawn or interested or wants to ask more, honestly, just to be in touch with the community. Like there's no harm. I remember when I was told that, I was like, yeah, right. If I put my name on the email, they're going to like seal and like, I'm like in there permanently with no escape, which is just so not true. Yeah, absolutely. So, and honestly, I think the best response to every time is like, just reach out, just give them a call, or speak to someone that you respect, like a good spiritual guide, or just reach out to the community and ask them, what do you think of this? Because it might be different community to community as well.
Let's talk a little bit about daily life. So who is your boss? How is it set up in the place that you live?
Absolutely. The boss is the Holy Spirit. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Our lives are really, as sisters, is all consecrated. We're married to Jesus. So there's a very real reality that I'm the spouse of Jesus Christ, a bride, and he is the satisfaction of every ache that I have. He is the answer to all my needs. He is the one that is satisfying my heart at every point of the day. As sisters, we kind of live in like little local families. So I said, I'm in Denver. We have a lot of communities in New York. We're in Philly, Washington, and they're kind of like all little families. And like every family, we have what we call like a local superior. So she'd be one of the sisters in the community that is entrusted with the authority to kind of lead and guide everybody in responding to the invitations of Jesus every day. But we have usually a typical schedule that every sister of life across the US and Canada kind of follows a similar one. Yeah. And then every convent is kind of entrusted with a different mission or a particular service. But for us as sisters, because we're espoused to Jesus Christ, our prayer life is kind of, it's the fuel, the touch point, the essence of our life, and everything else flows out from that. Because really, we're not here to work. We're not service workers for the church. We're women that are in love with God, and we're here to stay in love with him, in relationship with him. And from that relationship that totally satisfies us beyond any words to explain, from that living, loving relationship, then we serve. We give what we have. So that's kind of like he's the director of every local mission, but we do have like a local superior that helps lead us day by day.
Day by day. Let's jump back a little bit to, so when you took your vows, what is that? Vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience?
Way to go. Yeah.
Yay, I got it.
Good job. Yeah.
Could you break apart what each one of those means? Because I think that's a big question that a lot of people have, is the vow of chastity.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, happy to. And as Sisters of Life, we actually take, so those three are the three traditional vows that every religious consecrated would take: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And as Sisters of Life and some other communities too take a fourth vow that would be unique to their mission or their entrustment of the church of a charism. So as Sisters of Life, we take poverty, chastity, obedience, and then a fourth vow to protect and enhance the sacredness of every single human life. So it's almost like that devotion of ours, like we really feel called and convicted that it's that God has given us a mission to remind every human person of their worth, and that's a particular gift to the world in this day, in this age, where, oh my gosh, like worth is totally determined by how much you earn, the friends you have, what you do, your health status, how holy your kids are. I mean, what your track record is. Like we calculate our worth on so many different levels. But God has really raised up our community to really be bearers of the good news that your worth is in who you are, and that every single one of us is alive, and we're alive because we're loved by God, and there's a plan. Yeah. So that's like a vow of ours that is, like, as you can tell, probably really important to us. And then poverty, chastity, and obedience, really they're just radical ways of following and living with the person of Jesus Christ. So these are ways that he lived. So really, poverty, chastity, and obedience is an imitation of Jesus. And not just an imitation, but allowing Jesus to live his life in us right now. Not just by memory, not like, oh, Jesus lived like that, so I want to live this way. No, Jesus is alive and living. And sisters take a vow to live very simply and radically as the Lord Jesus is living in their lives. So when Jesus was here, he showed us and taught us that he was poor. He came and he didn't come on a throne. He came in a stinky manger, and he was content to be with us in our poverty and the places that we need and the places that we don't have everything together.
Yeah.
So as sisters in our poverty, very practically on a basic level, we don't own anything. So nothing's in our name. We don't get a income. I don't have any property or possessions. The one thing I have is this ring, is recognizing my spousal relationship with the Lord. But even that doesn't belong to me. Even my habit doesn't belong to me. Even my body on final vows, we lay down our wills and our entire, even our bodies, that we that we surrender everything to Jesus in an act of trust and love. Why? Because he did this to us first. Yeah. That God gave himself first to us. So poverty is following him in that way. Secondly, chastity. So Jesus wholeheartedly gave his life and his love to his Father and the mission that entrusted to him. So as sisters, we really love and base our lives on the real living love of Jesus Christ, who satisfies our heart. And you can say that and believe that in your head, but to experience in your heart and to actually encounter. And this is a call for, by the way, poverty, chastity, and obedience. This is a vocational call for every single Christian. This is just following Jesus. But sisters in a particular way are given a grace to live it radically, but we really live what every Christian is called to. And that is the truth that Jesus Christ alone is going to satisfy our hearts. Yeah. And until we actually recognize that, nothing is ever going to be enough. And that experience of like, oh, this is not enough, or that relationship not enough, or this is not enough, or everything falls a little bit short, is not like a cause for discouragement. That's a reason for hope. You were made for infinite love, and not just infinite distant love. Like a real person came. A real person is alive, and a real person wants to satisfy your heart. Yeah. So as sisters, we don't get married to another man. Jesus Christ takes that place, which every marriage is based off the reality of that every human heart is created for this infinite love. And we begin to live that heavenly experience now on earth for ourselves. And it's a grace. This is not a result of human effort. I could not do this on my own will and effort. This is, God has given me a grace to receive his love and to love him in a way that I'm completely fulfilled and being more and more fulfilled every day. And obedience. So just, again, like following Jesus, he was obedient to the Father, did what his Father said and did. As sisters, we surrender our wills to the authority of those in our community that have been given positions to lead and guide us. So as sisters, we, every single year, one way of doing this is every single year, a sister is entrusted with a mission and a place to live and a work to do. So right now I'm in obedience, very happily living in Denver, Colorado. Yeah. And my mission is to pray my prayers each day. So, we have a bell that signifies prayer time. And I know that at that moment when that bell goes, that Jesus is asking me to go to chapel and to be with him. And that I don't have to deliberate, don't have to be like, oh, should I pray now? Should I not? Should I do this next? It's like, actually, there is a way of life that we live by, a schedule. And God's grace is communicated to me by responding at every moment of my day. Yes, Lord, I love you. And I'm doing this because I love you.
Do you ever have regrets? I mean, we're all just human, that you kind of go, oh, I wish, or miss that human connection with, a man, or a regret that maybe you don't have kids? Like, do those thoughts ever creep into your head?
That's a good question. I would say I have been happily surprised. I haven't hesitated for a moment.
Yeah.
I would say I have regretted much, though, in my life. I've regretted that I have not loved in the way the Lord's called me to love. I have felt regrets every day. And this is where prayer is so important, because, none of us were created to be deprived of human love. All of us were created to live in the knowledge that we are loved and we're called to love. And each day the Lord shows me parts of my heart and my life that are lacking, where I'm like, I'm lonely there. Or, wow, Jesus, I really desire more connection there. Or, wow, Lord Jesus, I am so scared of my future right now. Like, I'm terrified of what you're going to do next year, or what's going to happen to this family member. There are real longing and lackings in my heart. But no, I haven't looked back.
What about, I mean, you don't see nuns or sisters in retirement homes. So what happens to you as you age through life? What is
That's a
the
great
care
idea.
process?
That's a great question. One I wondered about too. That's one of the first questions my parents asked. They're like, "So, what about when you get older?" Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I can't speak for all communities, but I know our community. So, our hope is to care for our elderly sisters, and we have already we haven't had any sisters pass away yet in our community, but we do. We're all aging and frail. And so at the moment, we've begun to, create the needs and the resources within some of our community settings where we can take care of one another to
Yeah.
the end and actually walk with one another to meet our bridegroom on the
Yeah.
final day. So we actually have one convent in New York that is a little bit more equipped, has a little bit more space and room, and a bit more of a schedule that allows for sisters to receive the need and the care, the health care that they need.
Okay.
And we're also in touch with a lot of, all the necessary healthcare doctors and nurses and guidance when a sister experiences some kind of degrading or suffering of her own. That our hope is that the sisters can remain in community, but that
Yeah.
they can also receive the care that they need.
They
So
need, yeah.
that's a service that is growing in our community and one we're learning to do well.
Yeah. And how does
Mm-hmm.
that work with healthcare? Like I know in Canada, we have universal healthcare, but in the States you don't. So is everyone that is treated through someone that's affiliated with your religion?
Gosh, that's a great question. Not necessarily. No, yeah, that's a good question. We definitely avail ourselves to all the healthcare we need,
Yeah.
and really the reason we can even receive healthcare is because of the kindness and generosity of, yes, people we know in the health professional fields, but a lot of people that support our community financially. We don't, as I
Yeah.
said, we don't have income, so we don't get paid for the work we do. So we actually our whole lives depend on the generosity of people
Okay.
um, that they really, through their generosity, support us and enable sisters to get the health care that they need. Sometimes we do, might go to doctors and nurses that we might know as friends or family or are able to care for us in a particular way that is a help. But sister really goes for whatever she's in need of. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had so many questions, but you've answered most of them. Ooh, here's one.
Yeah.
What
Try me.
okay. What is a common misconception that you hear a lot of people say? You've talked a little
Ooh.
bit about them, but
Yeah.
what is a common one? Because I know even myself, nun versus
Yeah.
sister, the difference.
Uh-huh.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Definitely. I can answer that one. And then, one came to mind actually that I haven't thought about. But yes, so nun versus sisters. I had no idea there was a difference. I just thought it was like, you know, the nuns are what Catholics call them and sisters are what they call each other. I don't know. But there is a distinction actually that I've come to learn as well. But typically nuns are usually when we refer to sisters that live in cloistered communities. So they're the communities that are dedicated basically their entire lives full time to prayer and intercession for the world. So they typically don't go out. They typically have are quite stable in one area, like one convent or one monastery, and they pray and they serve there without leaving. And people will come to them to receive prayer and spiritual encouragement and things like that. Sisters usually refer to like nuns, but nuns that also are apostolic, as we'd say, in their lives. So they also have a mission that requires them to depart from the convent at certain times and hours. So, for
Okay.
example, Sisters of Life, we just in our predominant mission of serving women in crisis pregnancies, we will do our prayers, up to 4 to 6 hours a day of prayers, and but in between those prayer periods, sisters might go out and visit a woman in a crisis situation. They might go and visit a woman in her home and be with her. They might go accompany a woman to a hospital for her appointment. Or in my mission of evangelization, like we travel quite frequently to different states and places that have asked us to come and speak about God's love and mercy and the real life stories of God changing lives in people's hearts. People are aching for a good word, like we all are. So we actually, travel and go on planes and share the good news that way. So sisters are usually typically referred to communities that are a little bit more external in their expression of their lives. And you have the Dominicans that go into schools and teach, which would be
Okay.
sisters, and other sisters that serve as nurses in hospitals. So they would all be kind of referred to as sisters.
Okay.
And then I did have a second answer to that question.
Yes.
One thing, a misconception, it's so funny, but I think people honestly, and I don't say this, but like probably the number one comment I get from people, or I hear them say when they meet sisters in general, is basically, I can't believe how happy you are. And at first I'm kind of like, did you think I'd be miserable? And I think there is, and honestly, that's what I thought before I entered. I was like, surely these women are either fake or miserable. This is
Yeah.
like not real. But I think people have been, a misconception of religious life is that we've given up everything that will make you happy. And definitely the world speaks that on volumes. Like if you walk away from money, from position, from fame, from family, from human love, from careers, it's kind of like if you take that away, what's the point of your life? And actually, religious life, as sisters, we proclaim a whole nother alternative, that those things are good, absolutely. And most people are called to live them and live them well and live happily.
Yeah.
But there is a joy and a happiness that things of this world cannot get you. And guess what? That happiness and that joy, it is for free.
Yeah.
It is a gift, and it's found in a relationship with Jesus Christ. And as sisters, we kind of like are asked to like let go of all those extra worldly things that are very good and happy, so that one thing that will satisfy every human heart is illuminated for everyone to see, to say that this is for you too. And this is not to stand on a stage and be like, look at us, we got it right. No, it's say, look at us, Jesus Christ will answer every ache of your life.
Yeah.
And we're living that in a total way because God has asked it. I didn't ask for it. I would never have asked for it. But the reality is true for me and you, that this is actually the same answer to every human person. And I think people are surprised by our joy, and joy you cannot force.
Can you explain your clothing to me and what it symbolizes?
Absolutely. I know you can't see too much right now, but there is more to it, I promise. But basically,
I hope so.
Yeah. There's like so I'm a cape. I could even like stand up a little bit for you if you like.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's full length. So this is most of it. It's a full habit. I'll come back down so you can hear. The only thing you're missing is the black shoes, but you don't need to look at them. But basically, and then we have a veil, and really the habit is what we call it. Really imitates that of a wedding gown, and so I think every little girl's dream to wear a wedding gown once. I get to wear it for the rest of my life, which is such a gift. But it's really a public witness to what every single human person is invited to in heaven. And actually, heaven is not just a future reality; it's a reality that's present to every single one of us in this life. That God loves us like the love of spousal love. That he actually is so interested and cares and wants to provide for us and be in our lives in the very personal way as a bridegroom to his bride. So as sisters, we, at the heart of our vocation is to be married to Jesus, spouses of Christ. So we kind of live this in a very public way for ourselves, but also, so that every person know that this is for them too. And to really reveal the love of God. This is what the habit's about. It's like, yes, God loves you that much. Yes, he's real. Yes, he's alive. Yes, he's calling women to do this, not just for their own good, but so that you know that you are very good and God has not forgotten about you. And I can't even tell you, oh my gosh, even going for a walk yesterday around the lake, there's a lake like 2 blocks away from our house. And I only wanted to go for a half an hour walk. An hour and a half later, I get back, had to say sorry to my superior for coming in late. But like 4 people stopped me. One asking for prayers, another woman saying, I haven't seen a nun since high school. Can you pray for my son who I'm worried about? I'm worried about the world. Can you do this? It's like people are so hungry for God, and to see a little reminder that we're not alone, that God still cares, that he's real. Oh my gosh, people gravitate to it. So it's really, I really just need to take more time when I go out for the interactions we have, but it's a gift to be able to be to actually have those conversations really quick with people, because they know what you're about and they know they can go to you to talk about the more serious stuff.
Yeah. Do you ever go undercover? Like, do you have to wear your outfit whenever you go out? Or
That's
do
a
you ever
great
put on a pair of
question.
comfy pants or lounge
Oh,
around and
wouldn't that
watch
be
TV?
comfortable? This is all and everything I own. So this is, we wear the habit always, even at home. If we never leave the house, it's kind of like the habit kind of signifies our identity. And that being a bride of Christ, that's something I don't want to take off. So we, apart from pajamas at night, we basically wear this all the time. And here in Denver, we love to go hiking. So I think people are most impressed when we're on top of a 14er mountain and Listen, I've heard conversion stories on top of mountains because they can't believe nuns are on there. It really helps when we do normal things in the habit. People actually think, wow, I can talk to this person.
Is there something big that's already happened, a big moment that you're like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life?
Ooh, oh my gosh, every day.
Every day.
Yes. Gosh, what could I share? I think for me, I would consider this a second conversion moment in my religious life. And that was really when I began to serve. It was probably 4 or 5 years in. And I was in my first mission in Toronto, Canada. And I began to learn and serve in our Hope and Healing mission. And that's to walk alongside women who have suffered the experience of an abortion. And seeing, literally walking with these women on phone calls and them coming into meetings and seeing and experiencing God's tender and infinite mercy and love for these women has totally rocked my world. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your time today. I know you are really busy,
That's
but
such
it's
a
been
gift,
wonderful
Laura.
speaking with you and hearing exactly how life is for you, because I find it very fascinating and you've
Isn't
given
it?
me a totally different perspective on how your daily life is. So
Amen.
thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. It's a gift to be with you and know, yourself and anyone watching are in my prayers. And yeah, we love you very much.
Thank you.
All right, God bless.